Still
Looking
the
forward
stage.
to it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Feedback Friday. This is where we take a look at your resumes, portfolios. You link those in the chat. We'll review them and invite you up on stage, learn more context about you, with a goal of helping you iterate and better position yourself as a career professional. Couple of housekeeping items for you here. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're new here, everything is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. There's a link in the chat if you scroll way up to the top. Happy to plop another link in there as well. But what that means for you is that you don't have to take any notes, and instead you can go back and rewatch the video. But it also means if you have any sensitive data that you want to share, for example, your phone number on your resume, you may want to censor that before sending it our way. Anything else is being streamed to the greater world. So if that's okay with you, we're good to go. I'm looking at the chat, Tim. Normally we have links in the chat 20 to 30 minutes early. Today must be a holiday weekend. We don't have a single link in the chat just yet, which I think is the first time it's ever happened. So if you are looking to get your item reviewed, feel free to join top of the list today, which never happens. Jason.
Yeah, and while we're waiting for people to put links in, remember we'll review portfolios or resumes with the goal of not like roasting anyone. It's definitely more collaborative, more co-working on it together with that with a little bit more energy and cheer. But making sure that we can just kind of objectively identify some of the key ways that you can tell your story as a designer and be successful as you go through it. Whether it's interviews, just communicating your value as a designer, or just making something that looks cool and does a good job. So we might ask you some questions to that spirit, and we'll invite you on stage to chat with us. While those are coming in, we would love to actually hear maybe a quick intro from Jason. You just want to introduce yourself and a little bit of your background.
Yeah, sure thing. So thanks for having me. I hope this is fun for everybody. I'm definitely jazzed. I'm on the executive side of leadership, so that director plus level in design. So I don't get to do much design anymore. I spend more time in Airtable and Excel spreadsheets these days. But I've been in design for almost 30 years. Back when Dreamweaver was the cool thing and Macromedia and all those things back in the day. And I started off doing like web design, what was called or multimedia development back in the day, formerly trained in school under graphic design, like print design, and then moved into UX. I was not as fortunate as many folks nowadays. There weren't really many like user experience programs, so a lot of it was like self-taught, as many of my peers who have similar tenure. More recently at Centene, I lead a team of product designers and a design systems team, roughly 30 to 40 folks. And we're like a $160 billion Fortune 25 company. It's like a healthcare company no one's ever heard of. We manage Medicaid, Medicare. And then more recently in my career, I've also worked at Meta. I was there for a time as a design program manager doing design ops. And then before that, I was at Capital One for a bit as a chief of staff and doing design ops there. So more recently in my career, I've moved into the business side of things within design, but my core craft is in the product design space, but more information architecture, interaction design, and enough visual design to be dangerous. That's it.
Just enough to be dangerous.
Just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I love it. All right. Well, and then guys, feel free to put in a link to a portfolio resume as we go along. We'll go ahead and get started though with our very first submission today, which I think is from, I don't know how to say this. Olohiomeu?
Yeah, you're looking at number 2 there. First on the list, we've got Parmeet. Go ahead and put your hand up, Parmeet, if you're out there, or Tim will find you. And we'll invite you up on the stage and learn a little bit more of context about you.
I missed one. What? Oh man. I'm scrolling. I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna get them all bad. I don't see them here.
Parmeet, did they remove their link? Do they no longer want to chat?
I don't see them. I remember seeing that link in the chat previously, but I actually don't see it here in the chat
You're
presently.
right. They removed their link. All right, we'll move along to Olo. I'll just shorten it for sake of ease.
Right, I'm gonna invite you to the stage. If you'll go ahead and just give us help us say your name the right way. That way we can fully respect where you're coming from. And then as you come on, if you'll just teach us how to say your name the correct way, kick me in the shins as many times as you need to, as I'm fond of saying. And then share a little bit about what some of your goals are and maybe where we can best support and focus today.
Hi everyone. Can you guys all hear me?
It's a little distant. Is there something covering your microphone?
I think so. Can you hear me better now?
That's a little bit better. What do you think, Nate?
I think we can move forward with it, but if you're able to find a way to increase the volume, would love that opportunity if it's easy for you.
I can. Thank you very much. My name is Olohiomeu. That's the name, but I have a way easier name that you all can pronounce. That's my name.
Esther is what you said.
That's what I said.
The audio is still really. I'm having a hard time.
We're struggling on our side. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Hey, if it works for you, would love to chat with you in just a little bit if you're able to figure out some of your mic settings. If it's okay, we're going to move forward to the next person, but let's come back to you and see if you're able to finesse the audio settings a little bit. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sounds great. Appreciate you. Tim, we've got more on the list here. Let's move ahead toward Bhavik.
All right, let me go ahead and grab them. I'm blind. I see more people before then.
Do you? Am I missing folks?
Oh my gosh, we have a guest today, Nate. We can't be this disorganized.
Oh no, you're right. I did miss folks. Akshat, is that the next one on the list?
I think that is a marketing person.
Great. Amanda looks great too.
Yeah, let's invite Amanda on. Amanda, first of all, please help us to say your name to address you the correct way, and then if you'll let us know where you're coming from, what your background is, maybe your focus, and that'll help us, be in the right place. I did invite them to the stage, but I'll send another invite. Amanda, are you still there? Are you out there?
I think this is the trickiest start we've ever had before.
This is, by comparison to how smooth this runs, a little bit catastrophic. What a good weekend.
I brought the chaos of Centene with me.
Fantastic. Well, we've got other folk on the list, Amanda, so would love to hear from you in the future. But moving forward, now we've got Bhavik.
Bhavik, true and tried, just hanging in there. Okay, come on. Tell us, of course, how to say your name, how we should address you, and then a little bit about your background.
Perfect. Yeah. Just an audio check. Am I audible enough?
You're good.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So, hello, my name is Bhavik. So, I'm currently a product consultant at a banking company where I work in the operational side, like the internal ops teams, IT teams, where I help them build internal tools for reporting and EMG interactions with different IT metrics. Um, and I've been working here for more than a year now, and I feel like I have outgrown this role where there's not any new opportunities towards the product side of it. So I'm trying to uh, look for new opportunities. And before doing that, I wanted to make sure the portfolio that I have uh, is kind of good enough to start with. That's one of the questions. And to be frank, my portfolio is, I guess, 3 years old. So it's kind of obsolete for the AI age, I would say. So I wanted to get your feedback on one of the case studies uh, to get a better view of where I stand, and should I actually start approaching people or start applying to it, or should I revamp my portfolio to make it more current?
Okay, let me repeat some of that back to you. So you are currently a product designer. You're working with a company. You don't feel like well, you feel like your creative skills and your abilities have outgrown where you currently are, which is totally natural. Glad to hear that you have some personal growth. That's really cool. And you're ready to find something that maybe suits you a little bit more. And so your crossroads here is deciding how to go about doing that and what level of update to bring to your portfolio or your case study in your storytelling. Is that correct?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, Nate, I'll let you pick where we go, and also where Jason wants to go in this too. But I will add my quick caveat that I know you mentioned this gotcha pretty early on, which is that it's old, so therefore it's not good or it's obsolete. And I would just caution against that. Sometimes old websites are in fact the best websites, and what performs better than good visuals is often good copywriting. So just a heads up, we'll probably do a lot of diving into your writing and not just the way things look today.
Mhm.
Those will be two things just to keep in mind as we anchor throughout. Nate, where should we go with this? Or even Jason, if you want have a place you want to start.
Let me ask a couple clarifying questions here, real fast. Did I hear what's the level designer that you're targeting? Junior, mid, senior? Did you mention that already?
Mid designer role.
Targeting mid, great. And you're mentioning the word product design. Is that accurate, or are you thinking more UX, UI, anything in between?
Product design. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And then I'm looking at your website. Do you have case studies on your website, or is each of these case studies linking directly to the actual product?
No, only the first one might be linking to the product. The second one is the case study.
And then read case study. Perfect. Okay, great. Am I also hearing that you're currently working at USAA, as in there isn't an immediacy for applying for jobs? This is more of a passive process for you?
Yeah, I'm just starting that process. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So that's great. That gives us a little bit of leeway, and it gives you a little bit of cushion to potentially address some of the difficulties with your portfolio, if any, without having like a major fire under your butt to try to get moving fast. Cool.
Mhm.
When talking about portfolios here, there were a couple of typical processes we refer to. The typical ones are like, who are the target audience for your portfolio here? We can also look at case studies, the format by which you are writing your processes. But you are coming to us with a portfolio that's fairly well like established. You've been doing this for some time. You've certainly got a website that's prepped. Most folk we talk with are like, hey, I'm looking for a review of my case study. Let me just straight up ask you, what do you think is currently holding you back? Like, do you feel like there's an area of friction that you're looking to solve, or are you just getting a gut check?
Um, I would say it's a gut check because I see a lot of new portfolios which has like a lot of micro interactions, animations, GIFs for the prototypes or work that they have done. And I kind of spent a lot of time to work on the content 3 years back. And since then, I've not done anything on my portfolio side. So I would say it's a gut check uh, at my side. Yeah.
Cool. Jason, if you're up for it, I think I'd rather just pass the mic to you as a person with hiring manager experience. Give the guy a gut check and see if this is a portfolio that you think is prepped and ready for application.
Yeah, I think just some things I saw as you were kind of scrolling through it there. I think Tim, I the I like that you open up at the top of like sort of what you bring. Like that, I think it's a big thing when you're a hiring manager. Like you're trying to get a skim of what your value prop is. So this is actually a really good one. I think you've got um, I think you've got some good industry jargon, which is not a bad thing. Like hiring leaders look for things like ambiguity, aligning, practicality. Like I think those are all good words that you have there. You scroll down to that first featured work. Another thing hiring leaders look for is like numbers. Like, can you quickly say like what you did, like what were the outcomes. Again, not the outputs. A lot of times designers, what you're showing in your portfolio are the outputs. It's the screens, but leaders are looking for outcomes. So I think screens are great, or workflows, sitemaps, user flows, wireframes, prototypes, whatever it is that you're doing. But it's what were the outcomes, so that like what were the numbers. So that's good. It's good that your overall page has a good sort of river flow to it. So you go back and forth down the page. The other thing I noticed further down was you had some moving things. I really appreciate, I don't know if you thought about this, but from an accessibility perspective, like that's actually a really good speed. So someone with lower vision, if they're zooming in, it's not moving too fast. It's something that they can actually go in and look at those things zoomed in. So that's good. The other thing I want to do moving forward, I should have done this before, is I use a feedback framework called SQUAC: suggestion, question, user insight, accident, critical, kudos. A very smart lady by the name of Julie Jensen came up with it before I did. So if you want to look her up, Julie Jensen, she's great. She consults on crit and other things. So I will try to use that framework moving forward, so that there's a bit more clarity in what I'm trying to do. So I think all the things I said are all kudos to your portfolio.
Do you want to repeat SQUAC one more time for us so I can get it down?
Yeah, sure thing. So suggestion, question, user insight, critical, then accident after user insight, sorry. And then the last one is kudos.
Nice.
Yeah. And the difference between an accident and critical, accident would be like, I think that's a typo, or I'm not quite sure. And critical is like, that's not a good pattern, or you talked about a business need or a desirability need, and it just doesn't look like it's mapping to that thing.
Okay, very cool. We'll talk about some of our own frameworks as we go throughout this. But that's interesting. I'll put this in the chat for people too.
Nice. So just from a high level, like that's at least the landing page. Like I would, as a hiring manager, like I would want to see more like coming in here. And that would be, I would make that decision probably in the first 15 to 30 seconds.
That's pretty good. I think that's great. That's a great vibe. That's a great vibe check for him. Here's some things that I was noticing, which may just help to augment it if I was going to improve this. Is one, you have fun CTAs. We always like a good little CTA here. However, it's in a little bit of unexpected places sometimes. And so just making sure that maybe bringing a little bit of consistency to the locations button makes it a little bit easier for people to find it, or allowing people to maybe click the image or some other affordance, since this is such a big UI piece here, helping people get into your case study as fast as possible, should they desire, instead of having to maybe hunt for the very specific button that lets them get in there. I also think it's really cool that you're listing your this one first, which has a solution that's implemented in live that I can go look at. There's definitely nothing wrong with it. I might also want to have a joint CTA though, so maybe a second CTA here that lets the person look at also a case study breakdown for it, even if it's maybe a little bit briefer, but something that can support this so I could see your thoughts and your process on it, not just the implemented solution for it. Nate, you have anything you want to
I've got a couple of things here. Yeah. Well, let me first off and state that if your goal was to answer the question, is your portfolio ready for applications? Then let me just clearly and concisely say yes. Your portfolio is clearly in a good enough state to provide good insight for you as you apply for jobs. That said, I think there are a couple of optimizations that we can potentially do to increase the chances of you getting that interview. And if we were to like define a baseline for what's the goal of a portfolio, the main objective of a portfolio is to get the interview, and everything else is sort of secondary to that, right? So a couple of quick insights here. Just on your homepage, you've got your case study section. The first one doesn't have a case study. It just links to the actual product. And the perception I have is that as I'm going through your portfolio for the first time, most folk are going to click on case study number 1 and it's not a case study. Therefore, my perception is you don't have any case studies. So quick optimization for you, just move that to the bottom of the list. So the first one is a real case study, ideally your strongest case study. You may also want to consider just removing it from the case study section entirely. Like without the case study, it just doesn't provide a whole lot of value for you. Diving into the case study itself, though, you're doing a lot of things really well. You're following a lot of really awesome practical theory here. You know, one of the struggles we have with talking with folk about case studies is that we lean really heavily into the storytelling portion of case studies. It's a really hard skill that a lot of folk really struggle with and have friction toward. I think you're doing a lot of things really well here. So for example, we know that hiring managers, recruiters, we know that when they're looking at your case studies, they're not going to read the entire thing. Most folk just skim through and try to glean the story at a glance. So then the question becomes, how do we build and write a case study that's consumable for that of skimmers? And the two main methods that we can utilize to achieve that are through really heavy storytelling titles, all your H tags, and then all your imagery as well. So your title tags, I think, are actually doing a lot of really awesome stuff for you here. Like from hesitation to automation, streamlining product workflow, driving 90% efficiency and report reconciliation. Like you could have just labeled this the name of the product, but your storytelling here in the title is far stronger. And as we scroll through your case study, you continually lean more into those storytelling aspects with all your titles. The barometer for success here is if we were to only read your case study through the titles, theoretically, we should still have an understanding of the story that you're trying to tell and the problem that you're trying to solve. Beyond that, there's potentially an opportunity for more imagery here to better enable folks to consume for skimming. Not to say that you have too much written content. I'm a big fan of written content. There is the ratio of textual content to imagery is potentially in favor of text, probably too much so for that of folks that are skimming. And then one other thing I got for you here, and this is just another like minor optimization thing. If we take a look, Tim, scroll back up to the problem statement. When I'm looking at case studies, there's three main problems or three main questions that I'm looking to have answered. Question one is, what's the problem you're trying to solve? By far the most important question here, because if I don't understand that, then the rest of the case study just doesn't make any sense. So question one is, what's the problem you're trying to solve? And your mindset is totally in the right place here. You've got a problem statement, except for the fact that it's not a problem. So it currently states, on average, financial professionals dedicated to filing spend approximately 120 hours per quarter for a medium-sized company, indicating a substantial investment of time and resources. Like that is, it's dabbling in a problem. But if you were to reword that on like what's the outcome that particular factor is causing struggle with, if you were to say that, we no longer like something like, I'll give you a bad example that you can iterate. Financial professionals no longer have the time to spend adequately performing the duties that they're assigned to because of the friction that you're describing, like something like that, right? If you were to state that as the problem statement, now the rest of the case study makes far more sense because I know what the problem is you're trying to solve. Let me pause there. I threw a bunch of stuff at you. How are you feeling about all of that?
No, this is completely a new perspective. I've heard many people say, like mention the problem, what they're trying to say, but adding that outcome that that problem is causing was something really interesting, and I'm gonna dive deep on that moving forward. And uh, I agree. Yes. So the images part, your feedback on the images to text ratio. Yeah, that was one of the thing I noticed in the newer case studies or portfolios that people are creating. So definitely, I'll work more towards that to make that ratio good enough and not leaning on just one side of it. Yeah.
Nice. I say, and keep in mind, I say all of this with the understanding that case studies are never finished. Your portfolio is never finished. There's always ways to optimize. If your barometer here is it good enough to apply for jobs? The answer is still totally yes. There are other things we could possibly talk about. One of the things Tim and I do on this call, and now Jason, of course, one of the things we attempt to strive for is we don't want to talk about all the possible things you can work on. It's just what are the most important things you can work on. Everything we've talked about so far are what I would consider the most important things. If you feel like taking care of those, would love to have you back, and we can continue down with the rest of the stuff. But I think you're clearly in an optimization phase.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I have a good enough idea on what I need to work on, and I kind of take it forward from here and come back to see how it went. But I truly appreciate your feedback and definitely very new perspective in
Yeah,
my company.
appreciate you, man. Jason, Tim, any last words?
I've got one item I'll offer, but I want to hear Jason's first.
No, nothing else. Well, one piece. As a hiring manager, like I will say, I always pay attention to what people use to build their site. So like I'm always like, did they use Wix? In this case, you used uh,
Webflow.
Webflow. So that tells me like I'm seeing you using a tool that we may or may not use, but like you can actually see that, the tool that you used is this thing that's live out on the web. So I do check those things out, and so I like to see that folks don't stick to like one tool to make design. So that's good.
It's good. I have the last two things I want to offer. They're more visual, which is one, you have lots of images on here, which I love, but a lot of these images are not optimized for the size that they're appearing, and so they appear very blurry, which is a huge disservice for the work that you've done here. In the showcase, is that you're now associating this very kind of blurry, grainy image with basically the hero for your case study. You can see this. It happens farther down too. Like this GIF here is kind of grainy. It's a little bit hard to look at because it is so blurry. If you're able to, I would highly recommend going through and trying to get higher renders for these images. Just something that looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit bigger. You're also going to find that instead of using GIFs, when you want to showcase UI, something like this, for example, instead of showcasing a GIF for some of these things, it's better to sometimes show a video because a video has it has a little bar at the bottom. You can pause it. You can really dial in on all the details, and it gives people a good stop, start point, like end point and a start point. And so I understand, where am I in the middle of this? Like, is this the beginning of the GIF? Is this the end of the GIF or the preview? And that can be a little bit more digestible for people. And the very last thing is you stumbled accidentally into one of my trap cards, which is about line length. Your website currently, where is this? Currently is using line lengths that are a little bit unwillingly long. Like we get down here, this one itself is almost 1200 across, and humans have natural line length that they like to look at across before they turn their head. And there's just a comfortability, especially when you're optimizing for scanning. And so I'll include this link here in the chat. Feel free to take a look at that. It applies also for when you have dual sections like this, because these are side to side. So there's a natural tendency for me to want to read from left to right, and you might find that stacking these up and down instead, and kind of following the line length for associated elements will help improve people's ability to scan here, and just maybe some of the look here. But otherwise, I'll let that stand. And I will say, if I was reading this, I would definitely assume and understand this is a mature case study that you spent a lot of time writing. It has a couple of things that I would recommend improving, like your title here, just making it a little bit more rewarding instead of maybe a little more clickbait. But overall, I think it's really good. I think this is a strong portfolio to stand on. I think you're ready to enter at least your preliminary things and see what people tell you and what kind of feedback you're getting as you talk with hiring managers.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for the feedback.
Bhavik, pleasure talking with you, man. I really appreciate the time. Tim, next on the list, we're going to circle back and go back to Olo, or however we're going to shorten that. Olo, if you're still out there, put your hand up in the air. And then, Tim, we've also made contact with Amanda, who we invited on stage but didn't have contact with. They're there. They were just not unsure of where the request to speak button was. So we're going to try them again afterward as well.
Okay, sounds good. Hello, Olo?
Hi. Can you guys hear me better now?
I think we can. Yeah.
Alright then.
All right. Will you instruct us a little bit? How should we say your name? And
Okay.
can you tell us a little bit about your background and some of your goals?
Alright then. It's pronounced Olohiomeu, but you can just call me Esther. I think that would be way easier. So I studied computer science in school, but I started designing 2 years ago. I think this month August would make it 3 years of designing. Um, I'm trying to get more freelance roles. That's basically my goal at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. And then when you're talking about freelance, can we specify maybe the industry a little bit more? Is that like true graphic design? Is that UI design? Is that more UX design? I know they're kind of all very similar, but if you had to pick a lane, where do you tend to be?
More on the UX design.
Okay. Very cool.
Yes.
Nate, where do you want to start for Esther today?
I think we should talk about Behance for a second here. Esther, if you don't mind, we're getting a little bit of feedback from your machine. If you don't mind just muting yourself until you want to chat back again, feel free to unmute yourself and talk anytime. Tim, I think we should talk about Behance for a second here. And then I would love to also gather Jason's insight on how he feels about Behance as well. In fact, let's just start with Jason. Jason, how do you feel about Behance portfolios?
In general, I'm not against them. I think increasingly, like, there are ways to make portfolios that aren't Behance. Like, there are plugins with Figma where you can export stuff and upload it. There's plenty of tools. I've even tinkered a little bit with Claude Design and its limited amount of credits that you can use. But there's lots of tools out there that you can use to build. I used to have a stigma around them earlier in my career, but anymore I don't so much. Like, I'm just more interested in the case studies and whatnot. As I recognize that even though I used to be able to do a lot of HTML, CSS, Java, and JavaScript, I know that not all designers can. So that's why I'm not technically always, I'm not against them anymore, I guess. As long as it's a good case study and it tells a good story, then I'm good to go.
Right on. That's interesting insight.
Again,
Nate and I have...
used to not be a fan, but I've kind of come around.
Yes, Nate and I we have pretty consistent feedback that we share with people. Nate, I want to make sure we're pretty friendly and kind about this. So Esther, one thing you have to know about Behance is that Behance does not actually, they don't treat you necessarily as a user. They treat you more like a way to get users and to get consumers. And so if you look at like the goal of Behance's goal is to get people to sign up for Adobe. And so this website is optimized for people to come here to Behance and not learn about Esther, but to use Adobe products and to go places. And so they're going to do things that are suggesting other people. They want you to find other people to hire. They want you to start a free trial. They want you to subscribe. And they're going to optimize to that end. And so as we go through here, you'll see that there's always going to end up being some sort of gap here that Adobe, like even at the end here, Behance is controlling so much of the narrative because of the way their platform is set up that it often is a disservice to. Even if I wanted to, for example, if I come here to your portfolio and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I would love to learn more about Esther, or I even want to hire her. I have to sign up for Behance before I'm able to do that. And this is a huge friction point, because if I'm looking at maybe 4 or 5 candidates and one of them I can email very easily and the other one I have to sign up for Behance, which is an Adobe product that I don't want to use, I might choose the person who's easier to email. And so we often give the feedback to people just to be aware that this can be a good place to like show and like spread out your reach, but relying on Behance for your only portfolio place can kind of shoehorn you into a situation where the website is working against you instead of working for you.
Thank you so much for that feedback. I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, that's our quick caveat. I do want to make sure we actually get into like the content here, which is I think more useful for Esther today. So,
Yeah.
hey, let's get into this.
I've been looking at this FitLift case study, and there's something interesting here, Esther, and that is you introduced yourself with a goal of going freelance, and that's an amicable goal. I'm stoked that you have a direction that you're attempting to solve for. Now, what's fascinating about this case study that you're presenting here is this is absolutely the kind of case study that Tim and I would review, Jason as well. The quandary here is that this is a case study designed for FTE, for full-time employment somewhere at an agency or an enterprise organization. This isn't the story that I would expect to see for that of freelance. And if your goal is freelance, then and let's say we do eventually move off of Behance and you do end up making a personal site, the objective of that site is less to talk about case studies and showcase your individuality and much more dedicated to that of like a sales page, something dedicated to what are your pricings and services, who are the clients that you have, how do you build trust, what are the features and benefits that a potential client would gain utilizing your services. It's much more sales oriented, right? But the case study you have here is dedicated toward like, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's the process by which I solve these problems. Here's the design sprint that I outlined. Vocabulary that your clientele likely doesn't have interest in. Let me ask you, what's your desire, or like, why did you write the case studies in this fashion? Is the freelance goal, is that a new pivot for you, or is this an artifact of your CS degree?
So the freelance role is like primarily what I want to do now. Currently, I already have an interview for a full-time role coming soon. So I wasn't just looking towards getting any more full-time roles. I just want freelance. That's why.
Well, Esther, I'm struggling to hear you again. If I were to repeat that back to you, I think I'm hearing the case studies were designed for FTE interviewing, but you're also interested in going freelance.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Okay. Cool. I am struggling with the mic a little bit. I'm hearing my own voice a little bit louder than I'm hearing your voice. But it's if that's the case, if your goal is freelance, then we be looking to pivot toward that of a more marketable sales website of some kind, whether on Behance or a personal site. I don't know that I have much more feedback there beyond that, Tim and Jason. Jason, how are you feeling so far?
Good. I was just scrolling through things. I think the one piece I was thinking of from that freelance perspective is you want to make sure that you're leading with the case study of the kind of work you want. So if you want to do native design or native development, then I think this is great. But if you would much rather prefer to do design systems or more web things or whatever it is, or again, this is native consumer. So if you prefer like native finance or native healthcare, again, since you're moving into the freelance space, make sure you're leading with the story of the kind of work that you want to have. In the past, when hiring contractors, I had a contractor I passed over because we needed someone that was a native designer, and every single case study was all web. And so they pinged me and they're like, why didn't you give me a chance? And I was like, we needed a native designer, and you didn't have any native work on your website or on your portfolio. So again, just something to think about.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, good luck with your interviews and going forward. I would say one piece of feedback I might offer is that if you do want to go freelance, or as you're looking to expand, spending some time on your personal brand here, with your positioning, maybe how you introduce yourself, like writing your statement over here, getting to the place where you're presenting yourself consistently as an identity that people can reference back to, will also probably support those efforts beyond just case studies, because case studies are awesome. But there's also like a human, there's like a person that we want to make sure we optimize a little bit for as well. So thanks for your time today, though. And Esther, feel free to, I know since we had some mic issues, feel free to send us a couple messages maybe in the chat if you want some more specific feedback or kind of going back and forth on things. Let's go ahead and move forward, though.
Next on the list, we're going to circle back to Amanda, who had to go through the Discord age verification process. What a conundrum there. While we're pulling Amanda up, and I can link to Amanda's portfolio here in the chat. While we're pulling up Amanda's stuff, there's a question from Rising Sun. Is it better to link to your case study alone or the case study and the live site on your portfolio? I'm a big fan of linking toward the case study. If you have a link toward the final product within that case study, that's totally fine too, though I very likely won't end up clicking it because I'm much more interested in the process and story you're trying to tell rather than the final product. Jason and I work in high enterprise stuff. Jason, what percentage of the products have you built that you think are aesthetically like beneficial to show on a portfolio from a visual perspective?
On the enterprise side,
Yeah.
Maybe one or two in my entire career, and it's only because it's like the name of the company. Like I worked at Meta, or I actually did some design work at like Time Warner Cable, like those kinds of things. But not a lot of enterprise work is always sexy. It's a lot of times very usable, but it's not sexy.
Yeah, exactly the case, Rising Sun. If you work in enterprise world, you don't build products that look particularly elegant. Therefore, hiring managers are much more interested in the process and the problem you're solving rather than the output. Amanda.
I also
go ahead.
want to point out that it's also tied. It has to be attached to the goal of what you're presenting. For example, in this case, scaling 0 to 1 financial literacy platform from 14 to 140 districts. I'm not sure what they're presenting here because we haven't necessarily gone through this one. I don't know what their case study is about, but what they're communicating to me by sending me to like the actual product here, this is a sales page. And so now it's selling the product here versus selling Bhavik here. And your portfolio should be optimized to basically sell you. You're the product. This is the world's greatest designer as long as I'm on this website. And as soon as you send me to a different website, we lose a little bit of the thread. Now I'm on this website, and there's just a disconnect there, right? I'm not hiring this brand. I'm hiring possibly this designer. And so connecting those dots is really important too. Amanda.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Nice to meet you, Nate, Tim, and Jason. So my name is Amanda. I'm 29 years old. I've been working as an art director for around 10 years now. And during this time, I had the chance to work with different advertising agencies with a pretty diverse range of clients and projects. So for that, it's really difficult for me to put everything in one portfolio. So I tried to pick a few projects that feel more personal and that represent my style beyond my usual day-to-day work. And my main focus is advertising campaigns, branding, and illustration.
Okay, very cool. So if I was to repeat some of this back, you are currently working as a marketing creative and designer in that space. You've worked with a lot of agencies. You've been doing this for a number of years, so you definitely have the years behind you. And now it's just a matter of how do you curate those items to tell a story that is persuasive and convincing of the authority that you should be able to command based on your work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amanda,
Very cool.
is there a problem or a conundrum you're trying to solve?
Well, I'm trying to position myself as a senior art director. So it's been really hard for me to fit relevant. I'm not sure if this is the right word. So important projects in my portfolio.
Man, if only we knew someone who had director level experience. And only if they were on the call with us today as a guest speaker. Wait a second.
There you go.
I was scrolling through everything. I think when I think of art directors, I think those who are still fortunate enough to still be doing the work. So I think where I am as a director, it's more about just like directing teams. So are you in that space where you have designers that report into you and you're directing them, or are you still like getting to do all the fun stuff and actually creating the things?
Yeah, I'm still creating the stuff, and I mostly work by myself. So I kind of miss the change with um, another art director or graphic designer or even marketing.
Gotcha. I think like overall, like what I'm seeing here, like definitely like your experience and what you're doing, it fits with the title and the role. I'm actually very impressed. Like, I forget how to word this. Sometimes designers, not all the times, like they have like a style, and like you can kind of see that across their portfolio. But I really appreciate that you don't have like one style. Like you're able to ebb and flow and create things based on the need for the specific customer. Whether it's sort of, I see some of the things with sort of the military imagery, like those things track, but like then things with like bucket hat or the bricks or the credit card um, or the signage towards the bottom, like you're definitely able to ebb and flow with what folks need. So I think the ability to be not just, I guess, what's the phrase, a one trick pony, but able to ebb and flow based on customer needs, I think is great. My only real big piece of feedback in this is it's a lot. So like
Mhm.
when I come in, I'm not sure quite where to start or like how to jump into certain things. Like if I'm going through here, I see like a mug, I see the like Lego looking bricks and the hat. Like that's different types of work versus things with like the military aircraft imagery. Um, so I'm wondering like should you have a way to like filter things or get to some to kind of show like what like if I'm coming in and I need like um I just need physical objects for like an event, like mugs, hats, whatever. Is there a way to sort of categorize that and quickly get to those case studies so I can easily just see those things? But
Um,
uh,
Sorry.
overall, like I think this is a great breadth of work, and it's again, it's more in sort of that like physical space. Maybe lead with that, because I came into this initially as my cap as like a user experience leader. I was looking at this more through the lens of user experience, but the more I dove in, it's less of that and more of the other space within design of like again physical things, which is great. But I think leading in with that's the kind of like art direction that you offer.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. The thumbnails, they are in Portuguese, so they are separated by project. So we have campaign advertising campaigns. The second one is in VT, and the last ones are from branding, BSV, and Essentialis. They are branding. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. I want a one plus or plus one Jason. One plus. I'm gonna one plus Jason. That's definitely the wrong way to say that, but which is this is we share this a lot. We share this a lot. You're in great company. As he said, like your work here, it's obvious that if I took time to look at this, you have a lot of range. However, um, a portfolio is often like we described it as like a mini you on the internet. It's a way when someone interacts with you online, they get to meet you for the very first time. And within that, it's like, thinking about what is your first impression on them? What assumptions do they make about you? What do they know about you? And in that way, we often like to make portfolios that are not just libraries or galleries, but are maybe more focused on your objective of helping someone form the right opinion and the right bias about who you are. giving them the right context and the frame to look at. And currently, when I land on your website, there is not a lot of framing that happens to help me understand who you are. You want to take the role of creative director. I would love to see then maybe including somewhere on here just a little bit thing about you being a creative director, like Amanda, creative director, and then maybe a little thing that says what kind of projects you've worked on over time. And then, as Jason mentioned, you have a lot of choices here. We humans love or think that they love to have as many choices as possible. The one challenge with that is that we have a hard time choosing between many options. So something that often helps with that is giving me a good reason to choose one over the other. I may not have time to go through every single one of these, but if you can give me more information that makes one compelling, especially compared to another one, that will help me make the right decision to say, which of Amanda's projects do I have time to look at that is probably the right fit for me? There's lots of examples for this inside product design spaces. This typically means giving like a very brief outline and maybe like a key metric or outcome that was associated with that, which kind of helps to frame those projects about what type of project it was. Since I assume some of these are more ad campaign or, I wouldn't pretend to understand what depth each of these goes into without reading each of them. But I imagine that there's probably a tiny bit of the story that you can give up front that you can showcase here. And to have that information not just appear on Hover. That would be like an operational thing. And in that regard, if you think about like I go in here and you look at this ad campaign, like obviously this is very like stylized to do a certain thing, which focuses the sales meeting here, right? And you have like the stages set. Each of these are like every image has a certain focus on here. I'd invite you to take that same craft to your website as a whole and say like, if Amanda is the product that I'm trying to advertise for, how do I make Amanda the star? And all of these things are the supporting evidences that Amanda is the greatest creative director or greatest art director of all time. And how do I know that I have all these examples of the work that she's done, that she's showing an opinion about, that I can then use to inform myself about, do I want to spend time reading about this one or about the other one, and which ones are more important for someone who's coming in? What kind of work are you trying to accumulate? How do you feel about that feedback?
Brilliant, I guess. It's so simple, but I never thought about it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I know how I gotta hand it over to Nate. Nate's gonna be teaming with some good stuff here. But one thing we don't run into as much anymore, but we used to run into this a bunch, is that Adobe powered portfolios is still a completely good, viable way to have a website. But you might find that Adobe Portfolios doesn't fully support your ability to tell your story in a powerful, meaningful way. There might be limitations for how it presents information. And there's lots of cool other website builders that you can use that will be easy to set up and kind of port from, should you ever be interested. So if you run into limitations and you're like, I just can't get it to do the thing I want it to, I invite you to just be open to browse a couple of things out there and kind of find what you're looking for, because there's a lot of cool stuff. And some of the people we've talked with in the past have fought Adobe and end up giving it up for something better. And it takes time, but it is worth it. So I'll hand over to Nate though.
Amanda, I don't have a lot for you here. One of the quandaries I have when I look at portfolios like this is you've got an art direction background and I don't. And art direction heavily more engages in that of subjective artistry than my background would allow me to talk about with any level of intellect. So where I'm currently at is what are the objective things that I can draw back to that assists with your goals? And I think you had mentioned your goal was to position yourself as a senior art director. Is another one of your goals to get hired at another organization as a senior art director? Are you applying for jobs currently?
Yeah, I'm currently trying to get a new job.
Got it. Okay, cool. So now we're in a world of there are some strategies we can then utilize that I think embrace borders between us. Though you'll have to challenge all of this with a grain of salt, knowing that I have a United States bias and I see that you're in Brazil. So for example, one of the things we would typically look for in your portfolio are some generic links, like your resume, for example, would be a strong addition to add in your portfolio. And then we're also real big fans of LinkedIn here in the States as well. Those are the two main like links we'd be looking for when reviewing a portfolio and then attempting to diagnose whether that candidate is worth having an interview with afterward. How do you feel about the ability to add those two things on there? I know it's Adobe. Do you have the ability to add those on?
I guess so, because, but I'm trying to, as Tim said, Adobe Portfolio is great, but it has so many limitations. So I'm trying to move to another platform. If you have any tips, I would love to hear.
Yeah.
Platform.
Tim and I love talking about platforms. We can talk about platforms all day. I will tell you there's a lot of really awesome options out there. Tim and I are both big fans of Framer, Webflow being another option. I will also mention Tim and I have transitioned fully in the AI coding camp. Both of our personal sites are fully AI coded at this point. If that's a little bit intimidating, diving into that, immense amount of resources out there for it. How do you feel about diving into AI? Any quandaries with that in your realm of things?
I think that's great. I was using Lovable to create mini sites, I guess, websites, but I'm at really early stage with AI and websites.
Jason, when you mentioned you don't have, like you're not against Behance, do you have particular resources that you favor over others when it comes to building portfolios?
I'm a fan of anything that allows you to publish quality. So I'm in your camp. I'm in the camp of, again, there's only a few plugins that I'm aware of that you can get Figma stuff out into something that's publishable on the web. But I'm also a fan of Webflow and Framer as well. I'm still a WordPress nerd, and luckily there's things like Divi and some other themes that allow you to actually build something that's, it's responsive, it works well, but again, you still have to have some technical knowledge. So, but I would say, I think ease to market, Webflow and Framer are two of my favorites, and I have just started to crack the nut of Nate's workflow. He demoed that at the company recently, and I've just started to tinker with it. But I have found even someone who doesn't design much, like the learning curve is pretty shallow with these AI tools. And I've been able to do some stuff with Nate's workflow, and I picked it up in like an hour's worth of time. So.
Tim, I'm looking at the clock. Amanda, pleasure talking with you. Really appreciate your willingness to hop on here with us.
Thank you so much for the tips, and nice to meet you. Hope to see you another time.
Yeah, our pleasure. Come back and join us anytime.
I'm going to offer two quick items here, which is one, your text sizing is pretty small in most places. If you bump that up, if you bump up your text sizing, even just two sizes here, you'll find that it's a lot easier to read. You can go ahead and darken that as well. Remember that you want people to be able to read this, and to the objective of helping people read, it's okay to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit darker. Something you can also think about, we might talk about this with other people today. There's a framework that I often mention to people as like a loose idea of where to go.
Hey, Tim, I'm so sorry. Let me hop in real fast. I'm looking at the clock, and I know Jason gave us an hour of his time to work with. Jason, how are you doing so far? Do you have to take off?
No, I can stay another like 15 to 30 minutes.
Fantastic. Great. I wanted to make sure we weren't eating into your next meeting. Appreciate you, and appreciate you being able to hang out. Tim, carry on.
I cleared the afternoon for this.
That's good. Okay. Jolt, Journey, Jackpot, Triple J, just to keep this in mind as you're looking at your case study, you always want something that's like a really good hook, but then you need to make sure you keep the through line and you help me feel like I'm experiencing this with you and that you're telling me a story that naturally leads me to want whatever ending you give me. which if the ending of Amanda's website is, I should hire Amanda, you should tell a story that makes me feel confident that hiring Amanda will in fact solve all of my problems. And so including just enough information, some text interludes between images, explaining some of your process and why you're making these decisions gives me confidence that this is in fact the right image. Even if it's like, I look at this image, I'm like, wow, that's a really cool image. This is a cool render. Even for you to talk about like, yeah, this is a really cool image. That reinforces my opinion that it's a cool image and helps me have more confidence in you. And so there should be a reciprocal nature. And I'd recommend just kind of keeping something like this in mind as you go through your stuff and port it over. It's a great time to review content just a little bit.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to use this workflow in my next website, probably Framer, I guess. So thank you. Really, thank you.
Next on the list.
Hey, who do we have up?
Yeah, next on the list, we've got Calijen, which I think is Janelica's portfolio. Janelica, if you're still out there, Calijen, if you're still out there, raise your hand.
Okay. Calijen, I see you. I got you.
I think it's this one, but I may have my links mixed up. Hard keeping track.
Hey, it is Janelica. I remember chatting with her last week. Or maybe 2 weeks ago.
It's been a bit.
Welcome back.
Yeah, hi.
Hello. Can you give us, especially for Jason, but also for me because I forget stuff, will you just give us a little bit of a reminder about some of your background, what some of your goals are, and how we can support you today?
Okay, so I'm Janelica, a product designer. I'm currently looking for full-time or contract roles, as a product designer. I'm currently working on my case studies, so like I'm actively building my portfolio right now. So for the last week, I was working on the first one, the first case study. So and I also like tried to change my value prop. Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to summarize this, you are a product designer. Did you mention what phase of your life cycle that you're in, whether junior, mid, senior, etc.?
Junior.
Okay. So a product designer a little bit early on in their career, and you are working on building your website. And the goal of your website is, it looks like for being hired. Is this for full-time roles, remote roles, freelance roles?
Yeah, I think I'd like either full-time. I mean, I'm open to anything, but I'd prefer a full-time role.
Okay. And then focusing on some positioning today. Lots of fun. Very cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll give the short answer, which is, as we talked about, like a portfolio is designed usually to be like a mini you on the internet. So when people show up online and they meet you for the first time, they're able to answer their key questions about who you are. And so there's a couple of important things that we need to help others catch on quickly so they understand the right frame, which is one, a little bit, just enough about you so that you're memorable. Basically enough that people have a solid idea of who you are, and then they can start to attach ideas to that memory of you. So having an image is a great choice. Having your name is a really good choice. These become items that I can anchor and associate around. Two then would be some of your functions and your core goals. So you do have here designing for human potential. We can talk about that in a second, but you also have listed that you're a product designer. So it's good. We're calling out maybe your certain function. If I was a hiring manager or recruiter, I'm looking for those words to assure me that you are the right applicant, at least. And then maybe some of the things that you're achieving. So I have a suspicion that we're going to probably spend a lot of time nailing down what your positioning statement does and doesn't do, and then maybe expanding or making some choices about who you want to reach. You'll find that when you make those decisions, even though it's hard and it kind of hurts sometimes to have to make some sacrifice about who to not target and who to target, you'll become a stronger candidate for those people that you are targeting. And that can become a big blessing as you're choosing who to work with. And then we might also talk about some of your ultimate goals and what you want people to do on your website. Nate, you have anything you want to interject here?
I've got all kinds of thoughts, but I'd love to hear more from Jason from the hiring manager's perspective.
Hit the mute button too fast twice. Yeah, I was just scrolling through this and just a few things. So first off, yourself, well done. Like I love seeing that designers are embracing AI where they can. I think so that shows that you're kind of picking up a skill, which is good. Total side note for all the designers on the call, as a hiring manager, I have the team use a lot of AI both in their personal time and work. No, I did not force people to work outside of work, but I ask that if they do any side projects that they just share back, because I'm always just curious to learn. I don't think AI is in a place where it's going to supplant design teams or designers anytime soon. I think the hallucinations I see in AI still very real. And as someone who's in charge of budgets and quality, I'm not willing as a executive to take those chances just yet. So I still think we have some runway left before anyone's jobs are in trouble. But good job for picking up a new skill and using a tool to build your website. A couple of things just off the bat: the open to work and remote, just so you're aware. Maybe try to be more clear in what remote means, like where you are in the world. In the case of a company like large healthcare company like Centene, we can't work with folks overseas. We can only work with folks in the U.S. And then even if you are in the U.S., and I know this actually is the same in the EU and other places in the world, but I'll give you the case here in the United States. Some companies prefer not to work with states like California or Colorado or New York, just because there's extra heavy admin things that they don't want to have to deal with. So just, I know that may exclude you from some opportunities, but it also gets to the point of where you are, and then that'll start to hone in on who can actually hire you. The other piece is around the 10 plus projects completed. While I think that's a good lens, since you are earlier in your career, it's like I've got this experience. Sometimes that can, and it's not that it dates you, but it puts a label on you, like you've only done this 10 plus times. The reason I tell you that is someone who's more senior in their career, ageism is a very real thing, and I'm now at a place in my career where I have to start taking things off my resume because it starts to make me look a little dated. In much the same way, when you're earlier in your career, I know you want to show that you've got this experience, but sometimes putting those labels can not do you a service. And the other place I've seen people, you don't have it here, but just giving the example, they'll do those little bar charts with their skills. And it's I've got 75% visual design or 100% interaction design. Depending on who the hiring manager is, if they see your bar charts aren't at 100% on everything, that can sometimes be a detractor. So just something to think about there. And then the rest of it, there's a lot of consistency within the portfolio. By that I mean, as I was pogo sticking in and out of the case studies, all of the navigability was all in the same places, so it was easy for me to sort of jump around and just learn about you.
Jason, I got a question for you. How do you feel? Do you have any strong opinions on custom domains versus domains with .webflow, .vercel?
Again, I used to. But not so much anymore because I recognize that doing custom domains means that A, you got to find a fun or cool domain that you can even get your hands on anymore. Or if you want to get a design domain name, some of the vanity domain names are stupid expensive nowadays. Um, and so you want something that's memorable. And I know most services now allow you to hook in your custom domain pretty easily. Like you don't have to know all the crazy server stuff anymore. So I'm ambivalent about it. I actually kind of like it because I'm like, ooh, what is this built on? So that at least kind of exposes that a little bit. Um, yeah, so I'm sort of I'm indifferent.
Janelica, I think you're doing a lot of stuff here really well. Am I hearing that? So I've got your goals written down here. FTE, contract position, totally applicable, product designer, early level in your career. You mentioned you were currently building a portfolio. We probably should have asked this 5 minutes ago, but was there a particular place in your portfolio you were looking for review on specifically?
Yeah, probably my first case study. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, let's dive into that.
was
Janelica, I remember
the rest are
talking.
not done yet.
Well, I remember
Yeah.
talking with you last time, and I think I had all kinds of good things to say then as well, and I continue to. Though it looks like this case study, am I correct in asserting that this case study is still in development form?
Yeah,
Cool. Okay. Let's talk about target audiences here for a second. I can't believe we've gone this long, Tim, without talking about target audiences. When you're building a design portfolio, typically 3 target audiences we're attempting to build for. Target audience 1 is the recruiter, and these are folk that don't have intrinsic nuanced understanding of what you do. So a lot of their strategies boil down to, I'm going to look at job description A and then candidate A, and then can I match up a lot of the key phrases and some of the vocabulary on those 2 entities, right? So you've already done a couple of strategies for recruiters. A lot of housekeeping shenanigans, like displaying the title on your homepage value prop, it goes a long way. On your case studies, the housekeeping stuff at the top, like your role, timeline, the tools that you use, the core focus, like you've got all of those written at the top of your case study. So I think in regard to recruiters, you're already doing a great job. Hiring managers, they will immediately look at case study number 1. And actually, Jason, I would love for you to challenge anything I'm going to say here. Hiring managers typically look at case study number 1, and their primary objective is to review the story and the process by which you solve problems. They're less interested in the output that you're formalizing and more interested in how you dissect information and challenge and go about solving problems. Now, I think your case study is already headed well in the right direction here. There's certainly an opportunity for more storytelling. There is also a potential, there are a couple of sections that I'm looking for as well. The easy one to look at is what's the problem you're trying to solve. And that provides the context for the rest of the entire case study. Once I know the problem you're trying to solve, everything I read from then on out is, okay, understood. Does that go about solving the problem that you're originally trying to solve? So that's like the foundational piece to your story. And then I'm also looking for what's that impact section at the end. Now, you're a junior level, you're entry level-ish candidacy into the market. So I don't care as much about the impact section for you. But if your goal is to challenge with the current market in its state, I'm not sure where you are, but here in the States, the design market is a real challenge at the moment. Know that other candidates will be having an impact section on their case studies, which makes them look, it positions them more effectively for that of business audiences. So if you're able to add an impact section on there and throw some metrics in there, would also love to see that. Let me pause there. How is all of that sounding so far? And then Jason, after she responds, I'd love to hear your feedback. Any challenges with that and any yes ands to any of that?
Yeah, I'm from Kenya, by the way. Um, yeah, I'm still like working on getting that last part on the metrics. Yeah, because I didn't want to use anything fake, and I'm still building it. So yeah, I thought I'll I'll add it later. Yeah.
Jason, how are you feeling about all of that? Any challenges with any of my rhetoric?
No, I agree with it. And I usually I look for a case study that I can relate to. So given I'm currently in healthcare, like I immediately went to the removing the friction from healthy eating. Because actually, again, I don't know who on the calls in the States or not, but a lot of folks who are on Medicaid, Medicare, our marketplace, and I won't confuse everybody with all the variance differences, but folks in the U.S. who are on Medicaid are those who are usually less fortunate, if you will, and a lot of times healthcare for them is just getting food or getting good healthy food. So again, so that case study resonated with me. So again, I always try to find a case study that resonates with the work we're doing, and I usually only read that one. Because again, if I got to bounce through 10, 15, 20 portfolios, I'm probably only looking at one case study. So keep that in mind that all your case studies need to be strong, not just one of them.
Tim, any thoughts on your side?
Yeah, there's one thing I'll add some low level items since I know you're using AI for this. There's a couple of things you can watch out for that AI struggles with, which is AI often wants to add hover states to things that don't actually do stuff. And so just watch out for that. If you have a hover state on something, it's typically clickable. Why does this hover if I can't click on it? For example, or even down here, when you're getting to here, why am I hovering if I can't click on this? And in general, to go to the direction that Nate and Jason are going, is that what we're talking about when we say metrics? Really, what we're saying is, are you communicating clearly why something matters, and are you communicating the reason you made this choice? And this is essentially what process is, right? It's just talking about there was a problem, so I made a choice, and here's why I made that choice. In business, everything's about estimations, and in design, I don't want to disparage, or I don't want to say that there's not a separation between like real users and not real users. But even if you don't have the ability to put like a number to say like, yes, this was adopted by 100 million users all time, right? Or something, or like we took down Amazon books or whatever, you should still be able to clearly tell me, why did you make each choice here? When you were looking at this, what kinds of problems were you anticipating? What did you think would be a good way to measure this if you were going to launch it? And basically just showing at least the foundations for this, to say, I'm making a choice and my choice is important for these reasons. And here's those reasons. And from a business perspective, I could then say these reasons matter because I can actually track them. And I can say this reason is associated with this metric, this number, this amount of income, or this performance aspect of it. And that's what we're looking for. So I think you have some of this in here, but framing it in that way is maybe a gap that you're missing inside of your copywriting. Additionally, I would just watch out for AI writing. AI writing is not fun for people to read, and you'll see this a lot. AI often uses what are these called, Nate? When you lead with a little front matter piece here.
I don't know what the word for that would be.
I can't think of the word. There's a word for it. But for example, like if you think about this word beyond reading does not really help me do anything. It maybe even makes this much more casual feeling rather than helping me get to the root which is this is design. And it was for retention and application. And so this is like very professional coded, and this is more like blog coded. And I don't think you want this to feel like a blog. I think you want this to feel like a professional explaining their process and the way that they worked and why they worked on stuff. And so remembering to keep that as your anchor, just looking for examples in here. another common way is you'll see it as like, it wasn't this, it was that, is another really common one where people say, the problem was not X, the problem was actually Y. And there's a time and place to present that and to talk about it, just making sure you frame it in a professional way, with the right human copywriting, possibly. So that would be that's my fly on the wall for you.
Okay. But can you suggest, like, how do you make the visuals on your website, like the images, like if you are using a screenshot from a real app, how would you do it?
That's a great operational question. I don't think you're using your screenshots incorrectly here, by the way. I think your screenshots are okay. You could probably include more screenshots, but I might be interested to see if we're getting into this aspect of like, how do I show images for explaining why this matters and maybe more of your process. If you have like early versions you can point to, you can say like, this is what it looked like at first, or this is where it started, or here were different options I was thinking about. Anytime you can say, I did not go with the default, or showing why you chose a default instead of something else, strengthens you a lot. And so I don't know, Nate, if maybe you have more perspective on this, but I don't see any screenshots that are necessarily wrong. I might be looking for more and a couple more artifacts along the way that support this. If you're saying you chose this as a card, this style, why did you choose this style? What about this speaks to you? We were talking about up here, you've got this note modal where there are other ways you wanted to add notes, where there are other ways you wanted to do readers or menus or progress. Just kind of talking about that, or even like your highlight tool here, and talking about maybe even like when you're doing layout stuff, why did you choose this layout format?
Okay.
Janelica, I'm looking at the clock. Do you feel like you've got some actionables to take away from?
Yeah.
We'll really appreciate the time. Really appreciate you being willing to hop on this call with us and hanging out with us for a little bit.
All right. Thank you. I'll still be here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the feedback. I'll keep trying to improve this. I'm actually working on like the portfolio while still working on my other, like, some of the projects are still in progress. So yeah, it might take some time.
That's all right. You may find that your portfolio is never up to date, even on my own website, which I tinker with frequently just because I like turning knobs and seeing what happens.
It never ends.
Almost all those projects are basically immediately out of date because you put them up there and you're like, oh, I was doing a little more work on this thing, or this thing advanced, or something happened here, and it goes away. So don't worry about that. Just tell a good story and make sure that story is focused on the goals you're looking for. Help people understand why your work matters. Remembering that it matters because you're the one who's solving it and it's going somewhere real to people.
Janelica, really appreciate the time. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Tim, next on the list, we've got AJ. While we're pulling up AJ, there was a question in the chat. How does one add impact and metrics to a portfolio where they don't have said impact or metrics? This is a tough conversation, one we've had many times, and one that we have to create a video for. Jason, I see you're adding stuff to the chat here and you're replying to these folks. Tim and I have a spiel on this, but I'd love to hear your insight on some of the portfolios you've seen and like how portfolios have potentially positioned themselves when in doubt of metrics. Have you seen any tactics here that you found effective?
Yes. I think if you can even still frame up what you were intending to do, like even if you say things like target audience of 1 million people, or target conversion of 30%, whatever it could be. like the more that you can even speak to what you were trying to accomplish, like you're not lying about anything. You're like, these were the goals we set out. And then you can close out with your case study of like, this thing didn't ship because of this business reason. The business came back and said that they had shifted direction, or budget evaporated, or they shifted to a new target audience, whatever it may be. And if you can speak to those business decisions, and even maybe how you might have reacted to that decision. Like, did you welcome it with how did you pivot your ideas and pitch it back to the business of like, ooh, could we have used this? Can we use this thing in this next effort that you're shifting the business on, or whatever it may be? So sometimes even just showing how you reacted to that project being shut down can show that you have a growth mindset and that you're adapt and resilient to change.
I like that thought a lot. Jason, let me throw a concept at you, a chat. This is something Tim and I have been talking about for a long time, and we'd like to build a mental model around it. Here's a real rough draft. I'm throwing it in the chat here. Jason, my perception here is that when it comes to adding metrics and showcasing impact, there are like different kinds of metrics we can use. But if we put those on a scale of like aesthetic versus valuable, we can rank them and then potentially like fall back to the left more aesthetic portion of the graph. Still add some value, even though they're more on the aesthetic side. Take a look at what I posted there in the chat. How do you feel about that mental model? Like if one doesn't have the financial outcomes, let's just fall back to generic outcomes. If one doesn't have generic outcomes, let's fall back to behavior change. How do you feel about that methodology of adding impact to one's portfolio?
I think it's an interesting one. I actually kind of like this. I think where it can hold some people back is I'm going to be very forthright, and I do not like the term product designer. I think it does a disservice to folks who have deep craft knowledge in areas like information architecture and interaction design. I think that product design over time has skewed too much towards the visual design side of things. And I think sometimes designers are good at lipstick on a pig and there's not a lot of substance there, which is a shame because I've seen some portfolios that knock my socks off. But the more I dig into like the real substance behind it, like, is it good information architecture? Did they really solve the problem, or is the sexiness of it sort of glossing over it? So I like this model, but sometimes it can do a disservice to those that may not have the sexy thing. So I think those who are true UXers and are really good at like wireframes and thinking through massive systems problems, like I think that we have to lean back more on the sort of the like sexiness of things, because they might not have some of those outcomes defined. It may not always do them a good service, especially if there's a hiring leader who maybe leans more towards the creative direction side of things versus more of the boxes and arrows side of things.
Interesting. Appreciate the insight there. Tim, let me ask you, we have other folk on the list here. We've got AJ next on the list. What are your goals with this session? We were originally chatting about potentially shifting into an AI segment. We've still got Jason. I'm tempted to carry down the review path if that works for you.
We're welcome to do that. I think it's fine. I do want to note, AJ should actually be after Ruma.
Oh,
I
no.
think is how you say it.
Did I forget somebody
They're
again?
flipped. That's okay, though. That's okay, because we can get to both. It's more about being respectful towards Jason's time today.
I was about to say, I need to bounce in about 10 or 15 minutes.
All right. I think we got to send AJ through the pipeline. Let's invite AJ up. Let's see.
We'll take you for as long as you are willing to donate, Jason. Appreciate you being here.
Unless we want to ask Jason about some of his perspectives on AI, if he feels comfortable talking about that and his workflows, if he has any right now.
I'm happy to share that as well.
Yeah, let's actually hear that. Let's
I
hear
really wanna
Jason's
hear about
perspective on this.
So what, I guess, what are you looking to hear about? Just in general, as like a leader, or like where I'm seeing things?
Yeah. So, as a designer, we often interface with a lot of designers. We're having the unique opportunity right now to choose to either fully adopt, a big change in our workflow, or maybe this is time to challenge it. But there's like something big's happening right here with AI, and it's definitely coming into this industry of design in some way, shape, or form, whether for the better or the worse. And I think it'd be interesting to hear, Jason, from your perspective, someone who's maybe a little more seasoned, wise in your years, you could say, who's been doing this and could offer maybe where you think this is going, how it's changing the industry you work in or not changing it, maybe how you value AI skills and people that you're hiring or not hiring. Uh, just kind of a lay of the land. If you have any thoughts, or maybe you have a specific soapbox you want to get on.
Yeah, I guess I from an uh, I'll start with the kind of the social impact of AI. I don't know how much everyone follows the news, but like today, like the governor of the state of Utah announced that um, they're in like an official like really bad drought, but they want to drop a data center in Utah that's going to use double the gigawatts that the state actually consumes. Um, I will say this one phrase and then I will get off of it. I think billionaires are a plague on society, and they will strip us of everything if we do not push back a little bit. So I like AI. I use AI. But I sit here and I also complain about it. So I want to. I realize I am a piece of the problem. Um, so curious to see where AI goes in the coming years. It's been my experience that AI was doing a decent job of getting better, but it feels like it's getting dumber. I have not been impressed as much lately with things like Claude and some of the other tools that I've been using as a leader to do analysis and other things. We talk about AI hallucination in our team a lot, about what it thinks it should do or what it thinks it knows versus what it actually outputs. Like we've started to use Figma Make on the team a little bit, and it's interesting, but I think it still is only covering 20 to 40% of what designers do. And I think because it's a mirror of what we are as humans, I still think it's missing a lot of the strong, some of the needed craft within design. Like I have seen some decent interaction design and some pretty good visual design get pumped out of tools, of AI tools, but I still think there's a fundamental like architecture issue there that that I don't think AI is necessarily solving well. So that's why I still think there's a need for designers in the coming years. I think the big thing that I'm seeing with AI, and that I hope it's the way that it goes, again, if we don't drain the planet of all of its water, is that it's really just an ideation tool. Like, can I get to ideas faster? Um, and be able to show those ideas to executives without having to go through all the steps to get there. And I'm seeing some of that. So I think that's the promise. And from an AI perspective, um, like where Janelica used Vercel to build her experience, I am very curious of those designers using AI, like how they're using it. Like, are they using it to understand and synthesize and do analysis? How does their prompting work? Like, what kind of questions, are they asking AI to get to things? Are they starting with make me a wireframe for it to do app versus, I am this person doing this thing and I need these outcomes or these are the impacts I want to do. So I'm definitely curious to see how folks are prompting things. Um, and I'm pretty impressed with how folks are using Claude to build workflows, like how product teams are using Claude and how design teams are working with them, not to make designs and outcomes, but how they're using the tool to supplant things like Jira and Confluence and all these other tools that we use to document and understand. I'm actually seeing some cool things bubble up from Claude that just get everyone on the same page. And I think there's high value in that, which keeps humans in the mix, which I really like. And that's my soapbox.
That was a good soapbox. I feel like, Tim, we need to, when we have guests on, we need to lean more into soapboxes. We get so many fascinating insights when soapboxes occur.
Absolutely. We should probably introduce a standing segment for people to answer a couple of core questions.
The soapbox segment. We should introduce it.
Soapbox. Welcome to the soapbox segment that has been going on already.
I'm writing it down.
Okay, you write it down. Write it down. I'll ask Claude to write it down. How about that? Jason, I'd love to hear, you're talking about your impressive teams that are doing workflows and like how you're using it as an ideation tool right now. One mentality and mantra that I often keep, that I'll share with you, and maybe I can get your take on this, that I often teach people a lot about intuition, what it is to have intuition as a designer, and how intuition is often it's the coalescence of lots of data and input and skills and craft over time that inform intuition. And that one thing AI challenges is intuition is often informed by what we think is feasible and like possible to do. And as AI makes certain things possible, that changes the scope of our intuition and our ability to say, like, now I can understand I can do this thing because AI allows it. At the same time, AI brings its own constraints. And so sometimes that limits what we're thinking about or what we think is possible, or even like what we want to do, because it's no longer as convenient to do with AI. I'm curious what you would take on the phrase, don't vibe code, intent code.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't really know what vibe coding was for the longest time. And then when I sort of dug in and figured out what it is, I was like, oh, interesting. So I like the notion of intent code versus vibe coding. Like, you should always do things with intent. Like, if you're going into the business world to do things via vibe, that's probably not like the best way to approach things. Although some businesses I've worked for, vibe is the way that the world turns for them. But I think coding with intent is a much smarter approach. Because when I've seen people, well, what they say is vibe coding, when I've seen the outcomes, like, it definitely gets more in the space of, I end up asking more questions. Of like, why did you do that, or why is it like this, or what made you make that decision? And they don't always have answers. It's kind of like they'll say like, I liked it, versus, well, no, like what was the impact, like how was it going to help the business, or whatever else. I never heard anybody say the word intent coding, so I'm going to steal that but give you credit whenever I now bring that up at work.
That's new to me too. Oh, Tim's writing it down now. Now it's formal.
Well, it is formal because it's a thing I talk to people when I do mentorship with them. So if you talk to me about AI, you will undoubtedly hear me. That's one of my soapbox. I have, like, if I'm honest, I don't have a soapbox. I have a soap church. I've got so many soapboxes that now they need a place to live. And so I've got a bunch of them ready to go off the cuff, and this is one of them. It's just about intention. And I think, and Jason has mentioned this too. Like, let's talk about this. Like, Jason has already talked about when we're approaching stuff, or even in their framework that they mentioned here over Squack, right? There's like a question, there's an insight, and there's always a sense of, why are you making a choice? You should know why your choice is. And I think intent coding as a term, intention just implies you've made a decision. You're chasing. You're going for an outcome, right? You're going for an outcome, not a vanity item. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would resonate with that. But Jason, thank you for sharing your time. Super appreciative having you here and the thoughts that you've shared. And there's been some cool stuff we picked up. I'm gonna go learn about this squawk method. It's fun to say squawk when you're doing stuff like this. So it'll be a good time. Do you have any other parting words that you might want to share with people?
Any plugs?
A lot of them are going to be beginners. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are going to be a little earlier on.
Yeah, just as a heads up, if anyone on here wants to follow me on LinkedIn, you can. We have an intern program annually at Centene. Sadly, it's already, I guess, closed and filled, or filled and closed, whatever you want to call it. But it happens every summer, so I'm not sure where folks are in their careers. And when it comes to interns, they are paid positions, and we are fully remote, stateside only, sadly. But usually, like over the winters when we hire, and you don't have to be in college to get an internship. So, like, just a heads up, like you can be earlier in your career to get them. And we may be doing some hiring later this year. So again, connect on LinkedIn, and I'll post any jobs that we have open. And I'm going to try to make an effort to hire a mix of folks if we go down that path, not just senior folks. I believe in growth, so we'll try to get a couple of early career positions open.
Any additional
what a controversial position? I believe in growth. I can't believe it's come to this, but that is a novel position to take as a team.
Any plugs about you specifically, Jason, you'd like to toss out there?
Plugs in what regards?
Anything that you want to promote for yourself? A little advertisement for yourself, and thanks for you being here.
No, I've become relatively quiet in the professional space. I've been told I should post more and whatever else, and I don't. I don't know why. I think that I'd just be talking just to talk, so I don't have anything else to say.
Jason, really appreciate you joining us today. Would love to have you back again in the future if you ever have the desire to rejoin. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks all. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.
You as well. We will be carrying on with Feedback Friday in Jason's absence. AJ, I know you've been on the list waiting for us to get back to you. We're finally there, I think. Tim, is that sounding right? AJ time?
It is. It's AJ time. What a way to say it, Nate. Yeah, let's get him in here. I think he's already got his hand up. Go ahead and invite him up. I'm finding his website or her website or their website. I guess I've never met AJ, to my knowledge. AJ, come on up.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello. What should we call you?
So my name's Avalon. I just put AJ as my abbreviation name on the Discord because I don't know figuring everything out about me, but call me Avalon. That works.
Avalon. Welcome, Avalon. We appreciate you waiting and being here. Can you tell us a little bit about your background as a designer? If there's any industries or specific markets that you work towards, and then your goals, such as getting hired, maybe going freelance, so on.
So I'm a little bit crazy. I will preface with that. I actually taught myself Photoshop when I was 10 years old. I learned Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Premiere the year COVID started because I was bored. And then I really fell in love with design. I definitely want to go to college for UI and UX design, but as of recent, I've taken up photography. So I've been doing weddings. I have 7 booked for this year. I have a lot of portrait sessions I do. I do a lot of equine sports as I'm a writer myself. And I do fine art. I work with cyanotyping materials and do a lot of cyanotypes like on glass. I use 3D flowers and gold leaf and all those fun things. So I'm really just trying to create a way for myself to channel this photography interest and passion into a potential design career, and how I can bring up using like a business major or a creative leadership major or something like that to grow my skill set. And also, of course, website feedback. So
Okay. Let's take this from the top. So I'm hearing, Avalon, that you are someone who's currently doing photography.
Yes.
I did not necessarily hear that you're going outside of photography, so just mostly photography and that kind of media. You have a strong creative background. You like to dig your hands into things. This is your own website that you've self-launched and you're working on. And today we may be able to help by giving some feedback on how you're framing your website or your photography and whether that's leading to the outcomes you want it to.
100% yes. Thank you.
Okay. Nate, you have any questions you want to ask before we do this?
Clarification question here. I'm trying to figure out what your goal is here, and we've talked about it a little bit. Like, it sounds like your goal is to do a website review. Great. Would you have a goal beyond that? Are you trying to get hired as an FTE somewhere, or are you just like, hey, I've got a direction that I want to dabble in? How are you feeling?
The direction I want to dabble in is still UX design. So I'm kind of want to see how this, I want obviously website feedback, of course, but also I want to understand how this photography and sort of design, picking up projects here and there path could lead me down to a UX and UI design career somewhere in the future.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So I'm hearing that there's no problem you're needing to solve immediately. This is just like, I'm looking for what the momentum is and how I can best position myself moving forward. Is that right?
Yeah. And the biggest thing I've noticed with my website is people call it boring, yet my whole brand is minimalism. So I don't love photography websites that are like, here's a photo and a hero image of like a wedding, a couple kissing or a horse jumping or whatever. I want to show that I have a good sense of design and creativity behind the photography, and that's shown on my website, not just simply like, hey, hire me because I'm not expensive.
Yeah, okay. So I'm totally following. I struggle when it comes to getting website feedback with the rhetoric of things like it's boring, because I genuinely don't care that much. And it sounds like you're in a similar vein where I don't measure success by the aesthetic appeal or whether it's boring or not. I measure success via, is it functional? Is it solving the problem? Are conversions happening? Objective metrics, right? And the other like quick factor there is likely the people providing you feedback may not be your target audience anyway. So I just don't like that feedback isn't relevant for a bunch of reasons. How are you feeling about that? Are you in a similar mindset there?
Yeah, I'm like, people will find me if they want to hire a minimalist and a editorial of a photographer. That's what they're going to hire. They're going to pick me because they understand my value for the composition. They're not going to hire me because my website looks quote unquote boring. You know, they're going to pick what they think looks right for them.
Love that mindset. I've got my background is in marketing. Every marketing book behind me will argue that you need to differentiate yourself, which means you sacrifice a dramatic amount of clientele because you're choosing not to target them. That target audience is no longer, rather, that audience will no longer hire you, and that's a good thing because you're focusing elsewhere on a particular niche second audience. So every marketing book behind me argues you're following the correct path there, for what it's worth.
Thank you. This is my second year doing weddings, first real year booking up, so I'm excited.
Nice. And by the way, photography focusing on weddings. So like you've got a couple of niches here, industry niches specifically. You've got looks like fine art, weddings. Then I think I saw you mentioned equine in there as well. The marketing books would also argue like, hey, choose one of them, stick with one, and then target and position yourself even better for that one. I don't have a strong argument at the moment, based on my current knowledge of you, that you need to dwindle your audience even further just yet. But bear in mind that's positioning will also argue you focus even deeper as well, if that's an applicable direction for you. I imagine as you excel in your career, you'll find one of these industries more profitable than the others, and you will just pivot naturally that direction anyway.
So, but for now, obviously I'm pretty young, and also I'm a competitive rider myself. So being at a horse show, why not make an extra couple $100 just taking photos, right? Like it doesn't need to be a big deal.
Heck yeah.
Right?
Have you ever played the board game Avalon?
A board game I've not.
Yeah, it's a social whodunit kind of game. I was just curious. Cool. Tim, there's all kinds of directions we could go with this. This is less about like web design review and more about positioning review. There are certainly website things we could talk about. How are you feeling? Do you feel like you've got an inclination in a particular direction?
I have some, yeah, I do. I'll say to support this, one thing that's coming to my mind is something called a trust letter. And we'll just explain trust letters really briefly. The general idea is that when someone first interacts with you, they're probably not ready to make a choice. And so you have to engage with them a certain number of times, and you have to essentially like help them. You have to lead them to the choice you want them to make. And sometimes these are very long, and sometimes they're very short. There's typically a sweet spot. You'll find it's different per audience, so forth. But in general, one thing I experienced with your website is that I actually don't know that it's a photography website. Right. I show up here and maybe I'm missing the sense of like, yeah, this is a photographer who does photography. I come down here, you have some words that would support photography. I'm not seeing any photography yet. And then I get to frequently ask questions and I haven't seen any photography. And so there is maybe an opportunity to look at this through the lens of, if I'm coming to your website, what am I looking for? And then do I see what I'm expecting? Are you giving me enough assurances that you would be the right choice? Do you give me a directness of like understanding, oh yes, when such is true, this becomes the right choice, right? Like, are you being honest about that? And I think you mentioned like the people who know you, they know that when they want someone who does photography and is a little bit into minimalism, and probably when I look at some of these photos, like I can see some of the work in here. There's certain style choices that are evident that would be that would match very nicely. But at the same time, I'm not seeing those opinions communicated necessarily early on. And so if I was going to help, if I was going to suggest something for your positioning here, as you're choosing what to portray and what to introduce people to, I would introduce some mindfulness to your trust letter and say, if I want people to make the choice to hire me for photography, what underlying assumptions do I need to address first? And can I answer those questions in a visual way or a way that's very easy for people to consume early on and quickly across? You'll often find that there's typically ways to do that by blending things, right? It does not need to be, like images that are shooting out of like a camera or some crazy animation, but you might find that like a tastefully positioned like hero image or a couple of images shown here and there that show different examples of some of your work may help people feel compelled to want to click in and to kind of go the next part. We call that like we've talked about this as like our 3 J's, right? We have we have our jolt. Thank you, brain. We have our jolt. We have our journey. I'm just gonna write journey, and then we have our jackpot, right? And the jackpot needs to be not just for us. This is for the user, right? So the user needs to feel like they win. They win by the end of the journey that you take them through. And so the jolt for you for photography is probably making sure like, is this what I'm expecting? Does this look the right way? Not necessarily that again that you have to change your style or you can't lean away from. You need to lean away from minimalism, but just helping people say like, if immediately on a quick scan, does this look like a photographer's website? Is there photography evident that would tell me that this is the right place? And then do they bring me along the way? Like, does Avalon explain why I should choose her photography, when to use her photography, and then maybe why she's better than other people's photography for her different use cases, which would help me say, yeah, absolutely, 100% confident, no issues, can choose her, understand what I'm doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I've always strayed away from that idea because I don't want to feel like I'm selling myself, which I know I am, but I don't want to feel like I'm those like cringy in your face marketing posts, They're like, hire me because I'm the best in Boston, I don't I don't want to feel like that. So I was just curious, how would you recommend bringing up like some images or maybe some more direct photography language that's sounding like I'm trying to sell myself or my soul to being like a photo director, I don't want that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Nate, you have any suggestions that are off the cuff for you?
Sure do, Buckaroo. Yeah, here's where the marketing background comes into play. So, totally hear what you're saying in regard to choosing or feeling like you're selling yourself. Never feels good, particularly for our generations. I feel like the older folks like don't mind as much. Maybe I shouldn't say that being recorded on YouTube. So when it comes to not feeling like you're selling yourself, typically it would be an extension of the last conversation we had. Let's say you were a generic photographer, and now your website has to say things like, hey, hire me for photography. I do weddings and parties and quinceañeras and cruise ships and all of those things, right? And so now you feel like you have to advertise your services. Now let's niche you down to a very specific target audience. Hey, I'm a photographer for weddings, specifically in the LA area. What other like influences can you use to narrow down weddings? Any ideas there?
Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be just like, oh my God, hire me, I'm the best in the area, I'm the coolest, I'm the greatest. It can be like, hire me more specifically using like the SEO catchwords and everything that you would say.
Less about, it's SEO from a brain perception perspective, if that makes sense. So it's less about, we need to find a photographer who can do all of these things. It's more about, we have to hire AJ because, or Avalon, excuse me. We have to hire Avalon because they are very specifically designed for the thing that we're trying to solve. There's no other photographer that's as niched down as they are. Therefore, they're the right candidate. So it's the more you niche down, the more you dwindle your competition. Therefore, no selling has to take place. Now you're just showcasing that you're a photographer that does this very specialized thing, and now nobody else can compete with you. Is that making sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I just really wanted to like hear that out loud and tell myself I wasn't going crazy, because I hate the websites that are so like self-marketing, especially older photographers. You know, my friends who help me with some other things in their 60s-ish range, their whole website is just a bunch of portfolio, just a bunch of like galleries of images and a bunch of like, you should hire me, I'm cheap, you should hire me, I'm great. And I don't ever want to feel like that. I want people to hire me for me, not because of the words I choose to use, you know?
Totally get it.
That's where I...
For folks in the chat, this conversation also applies to you other UX designers as well. But I'm just going to paste a screenshot in of my own website here. So my value prop here, Avalon, just to circle back to our thing here, I could say that I am a UX designer, and that puts me in competition with all the folk. I'm not saying that. Instead, I'm saying I'm a UX designer in enterprise healthcare specific to agile design and decentralized product teams. Like, I have now ruled out 99% of the jobs available, but that 1% of jobs that I do get that are applicable to me, I'm getting that job. It's the same strategy we're talking about for you as well in positioning side of things.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. Thank you so much. That's actually really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to circle back to the goal that we wrote down though, which was like the momentum about UX design. We haven't talked about UX at all. Do you have a desire to showcase UX work on this website?
Not yet. A lot of my experience is not like official. A lot of it's more, I'll say, projects I pick up from random people. You know, the school's like, hey, we need the website redone. Can you do this for us? And I'm like, of course. Yeah, I can do that. Figure out how to use Blackbot and your backend, whatever. And then, you know, it's a friend of mine. Hey, can you give me a logo or a birthday card, or can you do my baby shower? And it's things. Nothing publishable quite yet, but I'm just having a lot of fun doing that. And I want to see that as a career, because photography is not going to be sustainable for me.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate your mindset then. I follow your mindset that this website is not the appropriate place to advertise your UX momentum. We'd want to build a separate site for that. The quick, if there was like one takeaway, one rule of marketing, it's that marketing is a battle of perception, not product. Product has very little to do with the actual marketing at play. So now the goal is to build the perception of Avalon as a UX designer, and we want to disassociate that with the perception of Avalon as a photographer. The only caveat there is, like, if we can find if there's a niche that exists out there that's a Venn diagram of those two things, agencies come to mind. Like, an agency may want to hire a UX designer with a photography background. And in those occasions, you can lean more into it. But like in general, we'd want to disassociate those two things and build a perception that you specialize in either of those.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think
cool
my
photo.
dream is
Really
to...
cool photo, by the way.
Thank you. My friend, my dream is to double major at SCAD and probably do business in UI and UX, and then probably minor in photography, and then also a minor in art history. So I'm thinking of going on like a very niche path with the skills that I have and people who want to hire me. So we'll see where it goes.
Cool. Tim, I got nothing else in regard to positioning. I think we've talked about all the things that I think are valuable.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to do design in such a fashion that it would like there's lots of ways to make you look like a photographer. But I'm trying to do this and I'm getting stuck in the weeds here. I just need to
Tim's
have
hacking your
pictures.
website. Look at him go.
We are hacking your website, but it's with love and hopefully, well, it's not with permission, that's for sure, but it is with your knowledge at least, which is
What
just
app are you using? Are you using Figma inside like a different terminal or something to?
this is just Figma.
How
You
did
want
you
to
get my
plug your
website?
thing?
Yeah, so I made a Chrome extension. What is it? Where is that? Is that let me go. I don't have it in my history. Let me go find it real
Tim
quick.
is also a person that doesn't like advertising himself and his products.
Yeah, so I made a Chrome. Anyone's welcome to use this. It's pending approval right now in the Chrome store. I'll post this in the link. It's just a Chrome extension I built that lets me capture websites and then put them into Figma. It's very simple. You just run it.
cool.
You just click the button and then copy paste. So for example, just use the button, capture. And then sometimes this will hang, so you can click this button up here too. It's copy to our clipboard. We'll just go over here and you just paste it in.
That's insanely impressive. How did you do that?
Ba-da-ba-da. It's a whole story. It's a story of me, and we're talking about you right now. So that's where we're at.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just gonna tinker with this. There's a certain look I'm trying to find for you.
No one uses Firefox. People use Firefox.
I'm currently rocking Zen, which is a fork of Firefox. But I say that I would like to switch to Chromium whenever they come out with good vertical tabs. And also an ad blocker built in. Get your shit together, Google.
That's why I'm an Apple person, you know. Gotta use my ecosystem for everything.
Yeah. Well, in general, what I'd recommend across your website, if we were to tinker with this, is one, there are some obvious AI artifacts. I'll just point them out with the cursor. For example, we've got the skip content button up here at the top. Probably don't need that. There's a couple places where you can look at some things have buttons and they work. They have nice hover states, right? If I hover this, it tells me. And there's other places where it doesn't work. Like navigation down here currently isn't working. You also have an admin panel down here, which probably don't want people to know about. So just hide that. There's a couple of writing things that are classic AI things. So for example, AI often does this. It does dichotomy. It says it's not this, it's that. So in this case, the dichotomy is no distractions, just good stuff. That's a very common AI writing pattern. Not everyone will catch that for sure. It's just something I catch because I work with AI a lot of times. So if you're looking to maybe just minimize it, you can. You're also gonna notice that AI sometimes adds it can add hover states when you don't need hover states. I think we talked about this. So I'd be on the lookout for things that if you were to interact with, you'd be like, why is there a box here? Like why does this have a little outline if I interact with this? And it's just like a curiosity, just a little curious thing that can happen sometimes. Just looking, even here, like hovering over experience, projects, recognition. It's interesting. You have there's always going to be there's like a little grid here too.
So that was
that's
intentional.
interesting. Yeah, that's nice. I think it's nice. I might bring it up. I might raise the grid, make it a little bit darker. So that way people can experience and appreciate that. You know, if you're choosing if you're going to sweat the details, you got to make sure people can see the details.
Figma Make and I had a fun little 400 what do you call it, like examples or prototypes back and forth with each other about this hero page. So we'll see how it goes.
The skip
I'd probably lean into like a golden as well, like a little bit of a gold embossing almost.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
The skip to content, that's an interesting artifact. Were you diving into accessibility or was that the robot trying to do robot things?
I don't know, actually. Never seen that before. I only use it on a pretty small screen. I mean, my Mac is 14 inches. I've never seen it on a large screen, so maybe it's only showing up when there's more space for it, which is plausible.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said you used Figma Make for this?
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Figma
Cool.
Make.
For chat and folks unfamiliar, skip to content is an accessibility requirement. And if you ever visit, they're typically hidden. You typically won't see them. If you ever go to any website, before you do anything else, just hit the tab key. The very first thing that should appear is that skip to content link. in this case, we just happen to visually see it, which is a bug. And it's just unusual to see like somebody diving down. Yeah, look, there's my own website has it. Target's the easy one I like to point at because Target has like an accessibility lawsuit background. But like if you ever go to a website, hit the tab key and they have a skip to content link, you know that they have dealt with accessibility in some trusted fashion. It's just interesting to see the skip to content link as a visual thing. That's a unique bug that I hadn't seen before.
I don't know if my website has that actually.
Well, I say all of this with I can talk about accessibility for a long time. I don't have an argument, Tim, that you should build accessibility into your own website. And I know that's like a faux pas to say, but we could talk about it for a long time. But for the folks in the chat whose own websites don't have that, I don't think you need to scramble to add it.
There's a couple of things there. I would take a disagreeing perspective, but not maybe for the reason you think.
Soapbox time?
Not a soapbox time. Don't have time for soapbox right now. With that in mind, Avalon, did you feel like you got what you wanted out of this? I'm not sure if we have like specific items for you other than just in general, maybe doing a spike to understand where in the world is this? Do a spike to understand, where, first of all, what industry do you want to rock? And then once you say, hey, I'm specifically the horse photographer. I don't know if that's where you want to be, but the more specific you get, the higher up this mountain you get. And now you have like this niche, and other more generic photographers will have their own mountains as well. But niches tend to be much more specific and therefore they stand out a lot more. Now, not everyone has a need to go to the top of this mountain. Not everyone wants to go up there, but if they ever did, you're clearly the person to choose for it. And then also being aware of your trust ladder and just trying to say, what are the questions people are probably going to ask me or would ask before choosing me? And how do I solve those without having to make them click a frequently asked questions? We do love a good frequently asked questions area, right? But this should also be a little bit redundant. It should be kind of evident everywhere else. That all this information should be somewhere on your website, right? The goal is that people never need this. But if they wanted a second opinion on something that they've already seen across your website, they can learn more about it.
Got it. Okay, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. Tim, there is a question in the chat from Rising Sun he's talking about. In fact, let me just scroll up and find it. Speaking of that, Nate Bauer, thoughts on niching down versus being a generalist. This is a conversation we have a bunch, and a really interesting, nuanced one too. So there are a couple of ways to talk about this conversation. One is, if we look at the current product design market, we're seeing a low supply of jobs with a high supply of designers. So what's happening is organizations can find the ideal candidate, but also budgets are way lower. The United States is heading toward recession. I don't know if that's controversial to say anymore. And what we're seeing is organizations are really financially focused and holding on to a lot of their budgets. So what this means is if you need design effort, you need to hire a folk, you really don't have the budget to hire a bunch of folk. You really only have the budget to hire one. So in occasions in which there are low supply of jobs and a high supply of designers, generalists have the advantage. These are folk who can do all of the things to some myriad of degree. They may not be perfectly good at any of them, but they can do all of them. And if you can only hire one or two folk, it's more important to be able to do all the things a little bit, right? You still need to ship a product. So in current economic conditions, generalists have an advantage. But there's a nuance to this as well. There's a yes and that is when it comes to industry, specialization still has reins. So when it's a generalistic skill set you have in a specialistic industry. For example, if jobs are available in the healthcare space, I work in the healthcare space, I will be hiring designers that have experience in healthcare. Lots of designers out there, I know I will be able to find those folk. So when it comes to industry, specialization matters a lot. When it comes to generalistic skill set, generalism currently has an advantage. Rising Sun, I hope that answers your question. Is that making sense at all? Tim, did that make sense?
Yeah, if I was gonna put it into different words, I would say if you're looking for a team that's project uh focused, uh this is where having a niche really wins. Uh Specialization. Niches win here. Because they have specific outcomes and specific goals, and this project is already well defined. So well defined problems suit people who have specialty skills. If it is more of like broad goals, this would be like broader focus, um, more growth even, right? But in general, like less. I don't know. I don't want to say holistic. You could say holistic is the right. Holistically focused teams, right? There's two. These are two different frameworks people look at. Different ways of leading teams. These teams tend to focus on generalist because they need someone who can kind of do everything as a team. As they define the problem, uh, they learn the skills needed for it. So depending on which part of this depending on what team, what company you're looking for, I feel like my words are totally everywhere. Depending on the industry you look at, certain industries lean more towards one of these than the other. For example, if you go into AI industries tend to have very clear goals and very clear projects that they're trying to accomplish. They know what they're trying to do, and so they need specialists for that. Other teams, maybe you're working in like a financial team or an insurance company. That insurance company, they have a lot more revenue, right? Their revenue has grown this year. And like now that we have more revenue, we can grow our teams. So we're going to grow our team size. But there's not a specific project that we're growing our team for. We're just growing our team size. And in this case, they want someone who's a generalist, someone who's holistically focused, who will be ready for whatever the team will now face, because that's the focus of the team growth. And so knowing your industry, knowing where you want to go, kind of helps you decide, do you want to be a niche person, or do you want to be someone who helps others define problems and then you grow into that role with the team? That would be my yes and for Nate and my other perspective.
They've got a follow-up question here. Does this apply to hiring and freelance? And I would argue when it comes to freelance, you can position yourself in a myriad of different ways. Now it's up to you. So like if you're freelancing, you could freelance and say, hey, I design websites for dentists. So there's your industry specialization, but you are also designing an entire website. So that's still like the coding, the design, the development, the processing, the information architecture, the UX. So that's a generalistic skill set, right? But then if you were to argue, I do photography for horses I do equine photography in the LA area between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m. Now you have a very specific industry, but also a very specific skill set. So you could position yourself for either. Freelance is its own wild card. Like you've got the full myriad of business strategy up in the air.
Yeah, it's because that strategy really matters. I would purport that freelance is often going to be more project focused, which means that being in a niche helps you with freelance roles.
Totally agree.
Because freelance is often, I mean, not always, but often it'll be, we have a team of 4 people. We don't have the budget to grow the team because our revenue hasn't grown yet. But we predict that if we accomplish this project, our revenue will grow. So we're going to go work on this project, and then we're going to see our revenue grow, and then we'll make a decision. Did our revenue grow enough that we can now convert someone who's from contract to full-time? Will we keep working on this? Will we do a new project? But you kind of have to have that underpinning assumption of, we need someone who can solve a very specific problem and lead to a very specific outcome. And that's why they hire freelancers as a company. Now, if you're going individual to individual, like peer to peer, then I think it's a little bit of a different game, because sometimes it's more about networking. But speaking of larger companies that hire freelancers to augment and support big teams, it's going to be project focused.
Tim, looking at the clock, that's going to do it for Feedback Friday. Did you have additional things in regard to AI you wanted to piggyback on today?
Oh, Nate, I'm here for the people. And so if there's any questions people want to ask or put out there, we'll hang around for a couple minutes to answer them. Nate and I are actively working on, you should get, just letting you guys know, we are actively working on helping to build content, not content's maybe a strong word, but like outlines and ideas to help designers with AI. As you saw from Jason today and other opinions and things that are happening, AI is a really big topic, and there's a lot there, and we want to make sure we can support everyone with that information. As Jason hinted, though, the learning curve is quite low once you start doing it. It's often just the expense for it. And so we want to make sure we enable people to access the learning from AI without necessarily the expense of all the AI and the problems that it can bring on. Helping people get up to speed sooner. So, yeah, I don't know, Nate, do you want to talk about stuff? Where are you?
Let's do this. We'll formalize ending Feedback Friday. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Tim and I are going to stick around and answer questions in the chat, whether about AI or not. But we'll stick around for a couple of minutes. Just some final thoughts. If you're unfamiliar with Feedback Friday, there's a link to our YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe and do all those things to get the future live streams, the past live streams, the works, right? Whatever the influencer's spiel is. If this is your first time, we do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Would love to see you at a future Friday. Beyond that, appreciate you being here. I'll end the stream now, and then any questions in the chat, we can go ahead and